I've run to my ranking of the Carry On films. So yes, we are back once again and finally here to rank the Carry Ons. Of course, all 30 official Carry On features from least favourite to favourite. Of course, my personal list here, and it'd be great to hear your list in the comments as well, and share your thoughts on this franchise. And if you can't do a full ranking, you can just leave some of your favourites, obviously, because there's a lot of films. But yes, been going through the Carry On films recently over the last kind of year or so on the channel, and finally have reviewed all of the films. And so there will be a playlist, a link to that playlist in the description, and you can click on that, and it will take you to all the Carry On content I've got, and you can see my kind of individual thoughts on these films, specific thoughts. Most of them are spoiler filled, so you can kind of really hear what I have to say, in detail on each of the Carry On films. And for this video, it'll be going through them very quickly, in that sense. A little bit to say about each of the films, here, and I must say, absolutely love this franchise, and it's one of my favourite kind of comedy franchises, of course, and just had a great time going through these films over the last year or so again, and seen a few of these as a kid, obviously, and from a young age, Karen Screaming, Camping, Doctor, and these ones, and just have great memories of this franchise, and it's been really cool to kind of go through the entire series over the last year or so, and it's just been a blast. And not all of these films I like, but most of them I do, and I have something positive to say about most of these films. So obviously there won't be a spoiler warning for this discussion. I won't be kind of spoiling the films for you, and more of a kind of general kind of thoughts on each of the films. And as I say, it'd be great to hear your thoughts in the comments after this video, and you can share your rankings and your absolute favourites. Obviously, if you can't do a full ranking of the series, there's a lot of films here, as I say. But yes, with all that said, let's get into the ranking. And as I say, least favourite to favourites, and I do have positive things to say about most of these, but the very bottom few, just for me, are not films that I enjoy at all. And I think at a point in the series, it should have just ended. I think after Carrying Behind, and some of these ones, after that, were just real misfires for me, and with all respect, just did not enjoy these films. And at the very, very bottom, we have a film that I think is very hard to get hold of, but I did manage to see this at the end of last year, and I was very, very shocked with this one, and I heard quite a few bad things about this before going into it, but I didn't really think it would be this bad. And for me, it's at the very, very bottom, and that is the most recent film from 1992, Carry On Columbus. Now, this film, for me, just, they did return after many, many years, from 78 with Emmanuel, and, I think this film, it could have been good. The actual concept to this, obviously they brought back Jim Dale and, Bernard Cribbins, a few of the Carry On members. They have Julian Clary in this film, who's quite charming in this film. There's some moments in this here and there that, are quite nice, but really, overall, this was just a real slog for me, and, I couldn't quite believe this film. It was just, from start to finish, for the most part, absolutely dreadful, with all respect. It's just the way this film was shot as well. I couldn't really make it out. At times, just the kind of shot flow. It's just random stuff happening. Throughout this film, based obviously on Chris Columbus, and Jim Dale, is playing Chris Columbus. But it doesn't matter really, because it's a real shame. This was just a misfire for me, and completely flat, mostly devoid of laughs throughout the entire film. There's just a few laughs, maybe less than 5, in the film, and really that's kind of just light chuckles here and there, and just a couple of charming moments, as I say, of Julian Clary and Jim Dale. But overall, this film is a complete, just slog to get through, and the ending credits as well, just absolutely insane. So this one, is definitely at the bottom for me, because while some of the other ones that I don't like had a couple of moments that are, quite funny, and some sustained maybe 5 minutes here or there that enjoyable. This one, it's just a couple of moments, and other than that, it's just a complete slog to get through, and it's just a point where the characters are just having a plate-up meal, and I thought, how did we get here? I just was completely lost, because it was just a complete mess, this one. So really unfunny film, and it's just, wow, a really, really bad film for me personally. So yes, that was at number 30, Carry On Columbus. So number 29, a film that is just the first one I think that just they should have ended before this, Carry On Behind, and this is from 76, Carry On England. Now, this one has a couple of moments, again, early on, but, it's got, obviously, a few members of the cast still here, Kenneth Connor, Joan Sims, Windsor Davies, who returned from Carry On Behind, who I liked in Carry On Behind, and, of course, Jack Douglas in this film as well, and just despite, some of the cast members still being here, this is just so unfunny. It's a loud one as well. It's a real loud film with kind of gross out humour at times, and just involving different things, and it really feels very, very different to the Carry On films previously, and they just went all out here, and there was no control. I feel no restraint really, and it's just mostly unfunny. There's a couple of moments again, and it's kind of nice locations, but I think this one it's just again a real slog to get through, very flat, just messing about really. It's no real the script of this. Obviously, Talbot Rothwell had left before this certainly, and it's a one that it really needed a solid script to hold it together, because it was just a mess once again, and just chaos really at times, and it's really really unfunny, gross out, and just I didn't enjoy this one. Not very pleasant to watch, and it's quite sad to see this one, unfortunately. So yes, that was Carry On England at number 29, and number 28. I think this one obviously is kind of famously it's more talked about in the bad Carry On films than the ones I've mentioned, really, but I think it's better than Carry On England as well, and Carry On Columbus, and that is Carry On Emmanuel from '78. This one, it's not a good film. I think it is pretty bad. Pretty laughable, really, as what's going on in this. But I think it has around the first half an hour or so. I think was okay. Or it was kind of mediocre, of course, and just kind of close to okay, because it was quite funny at times here. Some charming moments, and I think it really, as the film went on, it became a one that was it was a slog, and it was just very unfunny, and I think lazy moments, just more sexual, of course. They were kind of going for a more overtly sexual film. Obviously, some of the Carry-Ons prior to this were quite sexual, in a comedy, but I think this one is really kind of taking it to another level, and it's just it's quite cheap at times, quite tacky, and it's just very unfunny for the most part. After that kind of first act, or so, and some of the cast obviously elevate the material. Without them, it would have been even worse. I think, and Kenneth Williams is quite funny in this again, obviously, but this is just it's the one that I could have done without, and it's just it's mostly very unfunny, and by the final act, I just thought this was a real misfire, and it's just very unfunny, very sleazy, kind of cheap feeling at times, and it's completely lost in what the Carry On films started out as, and what made them great, and just charming. It really lacks a charm to this one. It's quite cheap and sleazy, as I say, and it's just some good performances, some moments I enjoyed, and the first act is not bad, but after that it goes off the rails, and it is better than the previous two films. It's way better than Carry On England for me personally, but it's still a bad film, and one that I don't personally enjoy overall. So number 27, we have Carry On Jack. Now this was one that I think is the only kind of misfire really for me, until obviously Carry On England. Those last few, I think this is the one that just sticks out, as a one. It's very flat, and it's not really that funny. It's not the typical Carry On film, and it's mostly on the ship, of course, and I think it's just one of the main things for this is just general, generic kind of bland kind of pirate jokes, this kind of stuff going on in the film, and it's not very funny at all. It's quite loud at times as well, and just the actual main plot is not very investing, and some of the cast are here and they elevate again the material, and some funny moments here and there, but it's mainly at the beginning of the film. But the majority of this film is just mostly on the ship, and it's just very unfunny for me, and it did drag on as well, and just very one-note jokes and kind of characters in this one, more kind of caricatures, in this, and it's not got a very compelling script to me personally, and as I say, it's the only kind of, it's not a horrendous film for me, but it's the only one before Carry On England that I just don't personally enjoy overall. It's not very pleasant to look at either, and it has some moments, as I say, and it's not an awful film, and it's better than the bottom three, but it's the one that I kind of don't enjoy, before Carry On England in the series, to a point where I dislike actively this film. So at number 26, we have Carry On Follow That Camel. So this is the one, it's the last one that I don't quite give a full like to, in the ranking. After this, I enjoy all of these films for sure. This is the one that's close to being a like, though. It's kind of just under par, ever so slightly, and I think it's just a bit of a slog at times, in the second half especially. I think the Phil Silvers comedy in this, his character doesn't quite, fit the Carry On series at all, and it's very, very over the top at times, and it's just not very funny. It lacks a charm, and just what they were doing with his character, everyone involved in that, the way it come together, in this film, I just think it doesn't quite, as I say, fit, and it does kind of make the film, at times a bit disjointed. You've got things that are clashing the comedy at times with different characters, and I think overall the location, the way it's done, it just kind of makes it a bit more long feeling, this one, and it's not, you know, kind of as sharp as a lot of the Carry On films, you know, in the series. It's definitely within, you know, the kind of pinnacle period of the Carry On films, you know, in that kind of mid-60s kind of mark, but it's sandwiched in between various different films that, you know, are just so much better than this, and that are truly some of the best Carry On films, and this one just, it kind of gets lost in the shuffle. You know, it's not a bad film at all. It's quite close to being a like for me, but it's just not funny enough, and not charming enough. And as I say, some of the comedy with the Phil Silver's, you know, character, and he is the kind of lead of this film, you know, of course, and it doesn't quite work for me, and it's just a bit irritating at times, and not really the funniest Carry On, that's for sure. So it's kind of close to being a like. It's not a bad film at all. It's just you know, kind of under par, mediocre kind of film comedy, of course. So yeah, that's the last of the Carry-Ons, as I say, that I didn't quite like. Now the top 25, you know, I enjoy all of these films, and you know, I do you know, get things from all of these ones, and you know, would happily put them on really to watch at any point. So yes, at number 25 we have Karen Constable. So this, I think, is just the weakest of, you know, the early Carry-On films. You know, I think at this point, you know, they're kind of a bit going through the motions, you know, and gladly, you know, the next film, regardless, they did, you know, kind of change it up a bit, and you know, I think this one just pales in comparison to, you know, the previous three, and this being the fourth. Yeah, it just seems like they were, you know, kind of going through the motions. Some of the comedy is very flat at times, and just them going out on patrol a lot of the film. You know, it's quite an interesting concept. It could have been really, really funny, and you know, I just think it was quite flat, and you know, the comedy just didn't really go for much heights here. You know, it didn't quite, you know, pull the punches, that you could say, and you know, I think just very, very safe, very gentle. This is one of the most gentle Carry-On films, you know, in the series, and you know, I think just, even though we've got Kenneth Connor and all these characters, you know, I just think they could have been doing more of the comedy. Having said that, I do enjoy this one. You know, it's just a nice film to watch, very pleasant, and you know, I think, yeah, Kenneth Connor, Kenneth Williams, Charles Hawtrey, in particular in this film, you know, really funny, and just, I think Sid James as well. You know, this being you know, his first appearance in the Carry-On films, you know, he is really good to see, and you know, I think just the novelty of seeing that, and some things, you know, a lot of the cast, you know, kind of coming together here, and it's just a really nice film to watch, and definitely has some funny moments. I think the first half of this film is probably better, and you know, it does kind of go into that, you know, final act was a bit generic territory, but I think it's overall, you know, a fine film to watch, and you know, I do enjoy this one. It just doesn't really compare to the previous ones and the ones after this one. So yeah, that's at number 25. Next up at 24 we have Carry On Dick. Now this is the one you know, I think just pales in comparison to, you know, similar films, you know, the series like Don't Lose Your Head, Henry as well. Some very similar aspects to this. The production, you know, as well. It just feels a bit tacky at times, and you know, in comparison to this kind of you know, period films specifically, and you know, I think the actual, you know, following Dick Turpin, you know, is quite cool. You know, definitely got some funny moments. You know, I like the pairing between, or the trio, you know, of Peter Butterworth, Barbara Windsor, and Sid James in this film. And Sid James playing Dick Turpin, you know, is quite funny, and he is good in the film. This is his last appearance, you know, in the Carry-On film, sadly, and obviously Barbara Windsor as well. And this is her final one, and you know, I think it is, you know, it's definitely a solid film at times, but it's other times, you know, it's a bit, you know, kind of cheap in the comedy. Definitely some sequences, you know, to me, that are not, you know, very funny at all, and quite irritating and drawn out in this one. Just overall, it's very bare bones comedy at times, and you know, quite one note, you know, in the gags, and you know, I just think the way this is shot is very nice, but the editing there's something about this one where the flow is a bit off, and it does kind of make it feel a bit longer than it is, and just you know, it's, as I say, very bare bones, nothing too hilarious in this film. Just consistently, this film, you know, is not quite to the standard of a lot of the Carry-On films, and you know, it's definitely got its moments, and you know, it's a film overall that I like, but it's more a bare bones like, and one that, you know, it's okay, but it's not, you know, at all one of the best Carry-On films for me personally. So number 23 we have Carry-On Sergeant, the very first Carry-On film, and this is one that I think it feels very, very different to the, you know, the next Carry-On films, you know, in the series. Even Carry-On Nurse, it's quite different. It's not really the true Carry-On feel at this point, and you could say the same about these first four, really, excluding Teacher at times. That's a bit different, but you know, I think just you know, it's a bit flat at times. It's more kind of going in for the drama than the comedy, and you know, I think following this actual sergeant, you know, and his you know, his story, you know, it's more centered around him than, you know, the actual, you know, the funny characters in this film. Obviously, Kenneth Williams, Hattie Jakes, Kenneth Connor, you know, Charles Hawtrey are in this film, so they're in the very first Carry-On film, and it's great to see them in this. And you know, I think Kenneth Connor in this is very, very funny. Kenneth Williams, you know, some of these characters, actors are not really at this point given what they could be, and they're just kind of more in the background, which is quite interesting to see. It's like they didn't quite know the full potential of these legends until quite a few films into the series, and I think Charles Hawtrey is an exception. He's kind of that standout, kind of doing his own thing character in this one, and he's really funny. And some of the sequences in this, the training sequences, really funny, and some good slapstick in this. So yeah, it's an okay film. It's a solid film, and I think just doesn't quite compare to a lot of the Karen films in the series, but definitely one that I do enjoy, and it's charming enough. So yeah, that was number 23. So then we have Carry On Nurse. So this is the second film in the series, just after Sergeant, of course, and I think it does definitely, it's a step up, and it does feel better, more kind of tighter, this one, a bit more of a Karen feel, you could say. One of the things about this is just, some of the romances in this do not work, and, just a bit forced and very basic, just, characters smiling at each other, and it's not really enough, and, I just think it was a bit too flat again at times, a bit too breezy, but it's got more of a kind of edge to it, and it's more driven by a narrative that I find more investing. Obviously, Hattie Jakes in this film is more of a character, obviously the matron character in this one, and I think just Kenneth Williams and a lot of the cast in this one are given a bit more, kind of interesting roles in this, and I think the setting is quite nice. Obviously, the medical theme in this one, and it's a bit more charming, consistently more funny, this one, and just a bit more investing than Karen Sargent. Again, nothing too special here personally for me, but it's definitely an enjoyable film that is nice to see. I think it takes around 20 minutes to really get going. The immediate first act is a bit flat and not the most investing and kind of most films that reel you in really, just for me. But once it gets going, it's definitely an okay film, one that I do enjoy overall. So yeah, then we have Can Regardless at number 21. This is one that I think is a step up from the previous four. I think this is when a lot of the kind of cast members are really coming together here. Kind of it's creating the real Carry On formula, and it would be just a few more films until it's really the true Carry On feel, kind of perfected here, and Carry On spying really. But I think one of the cool things about this film is the kind of sketch-based format it has, and it's definitely. It brings in some negatives in that sense, but also some positives. More variety with the tasks. The kind of the team are doing in this for the clients, and it's just really funny, this one, with I think especially the first half of this, and the final act as well, it's really hilarious at times, and I think it does go to a point where some of the sequences are a bit drawn out and not the funniest, I think in the second half, but it's definitely a strong film, one that I do find a lot of the sequences, kind of the variety to this really funny, and it's just really cool to see. I think a step up in the kind of direction here, and just a narrative that I'm a bit more invested in, and it's quite loose still, but it's definitely a step up from the first four Karen films in many regards, and it's definitely a very enjoyable film at times. So that was Karen Regardless at number 21. And so at number 20 we have Karen Cabby, and this is one that I do enjoy quite a bit. I think this is obviously the first Jim Dale appearance for the Karen films, and it's just, I think, a nice light film at times, but also quite investing in the narrative. Sid James and Hattie Jakes, the kind of pairing here is great, and just really enjoyed different moments, in a narrative, and the kind of tension and drama that it brought in different scenarios, and also excluding the kind of the middle of the film, because that's a bit flat for me personally. I think it is consistently very funny, and just different sequences, the recurring gags in this, kind of I think just the progression of this narrative, is really well done at times, and I think the ending is quite funny as well. So enjoyed the cast as well, in this film, and just the way this was directed. It's quite unique, I guess, and the actual concept of this, the way it progresses, it's quite unexpected at times, and it just adds a lot of drama as well as comedy. So yeah, a nice balance between the two, and definitely some really good performance in this one. Sid James, of course, and Hattie Jakes especially. Obviously, Kenneth Williams did not appear in this one. It's one of the only ones he didn't show up for, but it's still one that does feel like a proper Carry-On film at times, and I think it's just a nice film to watch, and definitely better than quite a few of the Carry-On films. So yes, that was Karen Cabby at number 20. So at number 19 we have Carry-On Cruising. Now this is one that I think is just nice and escapist really for me, and some really hilarious moments, sequences in this film, but it's more, it's not quite the typical Carry-On film. It's got, some of the romance in this, it focuses on a bit more, and, I think that is quite well done in this film. Liz Fraser, especially in this film, is really nice, and just I think seeing Sid James, as the kind of the captain of this, and just the way in which the narrative progresses, in this one is very investing, and just a film that by the end of it, it's definitely one that is quite, it's quite touching at times, quite emotional in places, and I think just a nice, breezy film as well. And Kenneth Connor and Kenneth Williams, in this, great at times in this film, and just it's a very nice film, and not quite, again, the true Carry On film at this point, but it's definitely got its moments that are very Carry On-esque, and I just think it's very consistently nice to watch, and a nice flow to this one, and just an enjoyable film. It's kind of middling for me. It's not one of the best, but certainly not one of the worst either, and a nice use of the sets here, and just a nice breezy film at times that is investing as well. So there we go, Karen Cruising. So then we have Karen again, Doctor. Now this is the one that I think, being kind of a follow-up of sorts to Karen Doctor, this is the one that I think pales in comparison personally to Karen Doctor, and it's the one that starts out very good actually. It's a very solid start, and I think the first half an hour or so, it's got that nice Karen Doctor feel, the locations, and all this kind of stuff, and just some of the comedy, the slapstick is it's really, really funny. Jim Dale in this film at first, it's just classic Jim Dale, and really kind of a lot of physical moments in this, and in the first act of the film, but as we go throughout the film, it loses that sense of that charm, and the investment for me, and I think by the end of this film, I think the way the narrative went, and the characters kind of changed at times. The change of locations, as we go through the film, it just doesn't quite work for me, and it's just one that does lack a charm, in that sense as well. It's a bit, grimy at times, a bit tacky, you could say, in the final act. And I think just things that happen in the final act that I should have been more invested in by this point, going through the film, but wasn't really for me. And it's one that does, kind of knock me a bit, at times, different locations. It kind of takes a bit out of me because it's not that investing at times. There's some flat sequences, in this film, in the middle of the film, and I think just quite a few moments that don't really work fully for me. Some of the gags, the jokes in this are a bit too dark and a bit too sleazy and grimy for me, and are not the most pleasant, let's just say, of jokes. But I think overall, because of that first act, and the cast, in this film, it's definitely overall better than some of the Carry On films. It just doesn't quite live up to its true potential, and certainly for me pales, personally, in comparison to Carry On Doctor. But it's great to see Jim Dale again, and this is his final Carry On appearance until obviously Karen Columbus returning for that. So it's his last true Carry On film, really, and it's definitely a novel film, and one that I do overall enjoy. Definitely quite a bit. It's just not quite as good as it could have been for me. So then we have Carry On Behind. Now this is the one that is quite similar to Carry On Camping. The locations and the actual scenarios and stuff, but I think it's a very different film, and I think this is the last true Carry On film that I enjoy, and I think it should have ended after this. If someone asked me, what was the last Carry On film that you enjoyed, and the one where it should have really ended and wrapped up here, I think this is the one. It's definitely a solid film, and one that I do enjoy quite a bit. I think definitely some hilarious moments. Peter Butterworth in this film, is one of the standouts, in this, and I just think it's quite unexpected in places, as we go throughout the film, and also just nice and kind of predictable, in the Carry On sense. You kind of know what you're getting, and just some solid sequences, and I think the pairings, throughout this film, a lot of cool pairings of Jack Douglas and Windsor Davies together, of course, and Kenneth Williams and Elk Summer as well. I really enjoyed, and just a lot of the characters and the cast members in this doing their thing, and it's just a really pleasant film. I like the locations. I think consistently this is funny, it's investing, and charming as well. Quite uplifting, this one. Not one of the best Carry On films, but definitely a solid film, and one that I do enjoy quite a bit. And even though it kind of is similar to different Carry On films, for example, Carry On Camping, it's definitely unique in its own way, and really, I do enjoy this one. And from start to finish, it's definitely got quite a lot of funny moments, and physical comedy that sometimes goes a bit too far and it becomes a bit unbelievable, but overall it's nice to see. So there we go, that was Carry On Behind, and next up we have Carry On Up the Jungle. Now this is one that I do again enjoy quite a bit. I think it's grown on me since last year, and rewatching it again fairly recently. I think it's definitely, it's grown on me. It's got some really hilarious moments, of course, with Terry Scott, as Jungle Boy, and this is just so funny at times. Jackie Piper in this, is really really something. Frankie Howard, Sid James, Joan Sims, and of course Kenneth Connor in this film. As the main cast. First, I think it's really engaging with them, and just some sequences in the first act that are really hilarious, and just sustained comedy in this one. And I think it does lose the believability, and it becomes a bit too silly in the final act. What's going on there? It's a bit too over the top, and could have been way better in the final act. But the ending's really nice in itself, and I enjoy that. But yeah, it's just a bit of the film, 20 minutes or so, that isn't as engaging, and I think the first half in particular is more of a standout, part of the film, and I think it could have been even higher in the ranking if it's been as good as that first half, consistently. And so now we get into the top half of the ranking, and at number 15 we have Carry On Teacher. So this is one that I do really enjoy, and I think it's grown on me again. I realised how much I like this film since rewatching it again this year, and I saw it again. Well, I saw it last year for the first time, and I enjoyed it, but it didn't quite stand out to me as much, and it got a bit lost in the shuffle. But seeing it again, the narrative, just the investment, the teachers, and the whole kind of main drive of the film, it's very, very investing, something to get behind, and very, very funny as well at times. Some hilarious moments, with these teachers all together in the same room, just talking at times, things happening. I think that's when the film is at its best. Some moments that could have been better in this film, and all the students really in this film are just kind of there. There's no character development for a lot of the characters, in this, you could say. But the main cast and the main characters here, they are really well developed. They're all kind of unique in their own way, and I think just a very nice setting, of course, being in this school, and the way it's kind of done, I think is really, really charming. Definitely kind of this good, solid film, really, overall, and I think it's a nice film to watch, very pleasant, very uplifting, and just very investing, and some really hilarious moments throughout. I just think it does stand out, among the first 5 films in the series, and it's definitely above those films quite a bit, and it feels a bit different to those as well. Well, regardless, constable, nurse, sergeant, they do feel a bit similar in ways, and a typical kind of safe comedy at times, in all of those films, really. Teacher is a bit different, and it's just more its own thing, and I really do like this film quite a bit. Number 15, Carry On Teacher, and number 14 we have a film that is very, very popular in the series, and I do like this one. Definitely a solid film, but not quite, in the top 10 mark for me personally, and that is, of course, Carrying Up the Khyber. So this is the one that I do enjoy. I think it's just, I think more certain sequences in this film that are more stand out, and they kind of make the film shine. The kind of dinner table sequence in particular, and that was the one that I did love. And I think if the film had been, as funny as that, it would have been higher. But I think throughout this one, it's just not quite, the top, kind of Karen tier, of the kind of the gags here, I think just at times a bit flat here and there, and definitely moments that go on a bit too far, a bit too long, and definitely, obviously it looks amazing at times, some great use of sets in this, and visuals that, I think are very commendable, and, a lot of the kind of practicality of this, is really, really cool, and I think definitely some really funny moments in this one, but it's not a hilarious film for me from start to finish, and it's more, it's an investing film, and it's got a lot to praise, and it is definitely a funny film, and but I think it's more a few sequences that are kind of real standout, and very, very funny sequences, at times. Elsewhere, it's a bit too bland at times, and just things that let the film down a bit, and some things that are just not the funniest throughout this film. Just the general flow here, I think is one of the flaws of this one. But having said that, I do really enjoy this film, and it's a film that I don't rank as highly as as some of the Carry On films, and it's not one that I personally would put in the top 10, but it's the one that I do enjoy, and I think Bernard Bressler in this film is very wacky, and obviously Peter Butterworth is standout in this one, and just a lot of the cast here very good, and it's just nice to see them in these unique roles, and it's definitely a kind of a unique Carry On film, definitely one to cherish and to put on and enjoy, and one that is very pleasant at times, and just a nice film to watch as well. And so number 14, that was Carrying Up the Khyber, and number 13 we have Carrying Out Your Convenience, also known as Carrying Around the Bend, and this is one that I do enjoy, and I think aspects of this film, certain moments, sequences of this, if it had been as good as the high points basically of this film, it would have been potentially higher on the ranking, but I think there's too much of this, just certain locations, the main bulk of the film, it's just not as investing and not as charming as it could have been. Certain aspects of the narrative that I'm not really behind, and it's just a bit it's a bit too serious at times for me, and not quite escapist enough, for a Carry-On film to kind of be higher in the ranking. Having said that, certain sequences in this film, for example, the trip that they have at one point in the film, that was absolutely hilarious and proper Carry-On, stuff, and really loved that sequence. And I think 20-25 minutes of this film or so, I do love, and I think there's some investing threads in this one, and ones, character moments, arcs that I get behind, but other moments that I'm really not behind, and it's not as pleasant as, and just as charming and as enjoyable as it could have been, but I think overall definitely a film that I enjoy, and it's got some real high points, and that's why, it's a bit higher on the ranking, and things that I do take overall to a lot of the Carry-Ons below this one. So not quite in the top 10, but could have been potentially if it had been, based on the high points of the film, and just an enjoyable film that is nice to watch, but just not quite one of the very best Carry-On films for me personally. And at number 12 we have Karen Henry, and this is the one that I do enjoy again. I think Charles Hawtrey is one of the standouts in this, Terry Scott of course as well, Kenneth Williams in this one as well. We've got a lot of the cast that are really kind of bringing the raw to this film, and I really like the locations to this, just the sets and the scenarios that are kind of recurring throughout the film, and the writing in this in general, I think is very sharp, and I think a lot of things that are very well done, in this, and Joan Sims is one of the highlights of this film as well, but especially Sid James, as Henry VIII, and just playing this character so well, and it's just priceless at times, this film, and some of the kind of physical gags, that are in this that are kind of recurring, I think was so funny, and just, really nice film to watch, very charming, quite bizarre at times, quite wacky, but in the right ways, and definitely one of my favourite, kind of Carry-On films in many ways, and I think definitely some flat moments here and there, but overall it's just a nice film, and very funny at times, and At number 12, that was Karen Henry. And so at number 11, this is a film that's grown on me since watching it last year, and I did review that film and gave it a much lower score than I did this time round, in terms of just I didn't re-review the film in that sense, but I did change my mind on this one, and it's really grown on me, and I think it's just one of the best Karen films in many ways, and that is of course Carry On, Don't Lose Your Head. So this is the one that I just really enjoy. In terms of these, Karen Henry Dick, this one, the kind of similar costumes, time periods, just production to this. I think it's definitely the standout one, and I think hilarious moments at times. One of the best Peter Butterworth roles, in this, and just the kind of bumbling nature of the characters together, and the actual drive of this, and the kind of the energy to this as well at times. It's just really definitely for me, and the final act as well is very out there, but it does work, and really enjoy that, and just hilarious moments, sequences, very physical this one, a lot of obviously kind of action sequences in this, and I really enjoy this one, and some of the gags as well, especially the way they're set up, and the narrative, the way it's done, I think is very funny at times, and just some of the defining moments really for as I say, Peter Butterworth, and as well Kenneth Williams and Charles Hawtrey in this one. So really a standout Karen film, and one that has grown on me quite a bit, since watching it first time last year. So that was Karen, Don't Lose Your Head, and next up we get into the top 10. Now this is a kind of 10 and 9 are very close, you could say, but for me at number 10 we have Carry On Girls. Now this is the one that I do really enjoy. I think it's definitely one that I enjoy more than most people would. It seems, and I think just instantly I'm invested in the narrative. Bernard Brestor is one of the standout kind of characters in this. The one that he plays, and I think just seeing the way that his arc is set up, and the way it kind of culminates in the end as well, and just a lot of the different characters. I found a nice balance between individual characters and their kind of scenarios, and the ensemble of this as well. I think it's very nicely done, and just a really nice set of locations as well, and just moments in this, sequences that I really love. Barbara Windsor, Sid James, Joan Sims as well. That kind of trio of characters there. The ones they play. It's really well done, and very tense at times, and just really funny film overall. So yeah, very nice film to see, and definitely one of my personal favourites. So number 9 we have Carry On Cowboy, and that's the one that I really enjoy, and I think just seeing a Western Carry On film, is really great, and love Westerns of course, and just really mad about this genre, and so it's really cool to see different tropes, and different elements of course of Western cinema, just kind of in characters and lore, you kind of parodied in this one, and it's just really unique. The writing is very effective. A lot of thought went into this, and the sets as well. One of the best looking Carry On films, of course, and just seeing Kenneth Williams is a very different character, and just different accents that the characters, or the cast, kind of doing in this one is quite unique. Sid James is stand out as well in this film, and of course, Angela Douglas is probably her best role that she has in the Karen films, and as well, of course, Jim Dale as Marshall Peanut, and he is just absolutely hilarious in this film, and really get behind this character, and just consistently in this film. Well, it's not one of the absolute funniest Karen films, and potentially Karen Girls, is maybe a bit funnier at times to this film. I would take this one over Karen Girls because it's more investing. I enjoy the world that is created in this one. The actual locations, the sets, of course, and just the characters in this are more investing and more charming. This is a really charming film, and one that is quite magical in places, and some moments that are flat and hold the film back a bit. Really consistently, throughout the film, there's a bit of issues here and there, but I think overall very, very funny, and the final act, the way it comes together as well, the action in this film, and just the actual the characters and the narrative, the arcs to a lot of the characters, it's very investing and very well done. So yeah, Karen Cowboy at number 9, and number 8 and 7 are very close as well, and kind of went through a phase of do I prefer this to number 7, but then I decided on just keeping it as it is, and because I just concluded that I do prefer number 7 on the ranking to this film, and at number 8 we have Carry On Abroad. So this one I think is one of the most defining Carry On films, and definitely an ensemble film. A lot of the Karen cast are here, and just the location, and the idea of just going on holiday to this hotel that is obviously falling apart. It's just so funny, and I think the kind of the first act as well, it's really, really funny, and I think some hilarious moments with the introduction of the characters especially, and I think all of the cast we hear, just great, and I think Peter Butterworth, is one of his best roles in this, and just so funny, and I think the way in which it's quite chaotic at times, this film, I think it doesn't kind of lose the focus and the control to this, and I think it's just so well done until even the final act, which is very much out there, but it's again very controlled, and really, really funny. Some of the cast are not given their best roles in this, and I think more could have been done. It could have been a bit funny with Hattie Jakes, her character, but I think because it's a bit one note and a bit just kind of not the funniest, but overall as an ensemble, and just the pairings in this, the couples, and the way they interact in this film, it's just so funny, and just really charming as well, and just very uplifting, this one. So yeah, Karen Abroad, it does have, I think one of the things though, it does have some tacky moments here and there, and some moments that could have been funnier, but overall, yeah, it's just definitely one of the best Karen films for me personally, and yes. At number 7, we have a film that just edged out, as I say, Karen Abroad, and that is, of course, Carry On Loving. Now, this one, I really enjoy this film. Just so, investing. It's a very nice film, it kind of uplifts me, very feel-good film, and the kind of romances that happen in this one, and all about this kind of dating kind of company, and where they match up different couples, of course, and I think it all unfolds from there, and I think just seeing the different various couples in this film, and the scenarios, it's a nice blend of situational comedy and actual kind of authentic romances that are kind of developing in this one. Jackie Piper is just so good in this film, and I think a lot of the cast really, really good in this film, and I think Sid James, Hattie Jakes, Kenneth Williams as well, Charles Hawtrey, kind of quite a bizarre role for him, and really enjoyable, and just all the way to the final act, even, it's just a very, very funny, charming film that I think it's one of the better Karen films for sure, and it's definitely a film that has a lot of really good writing to this, and just the acting is very, very good, and some really kind of classic Carry On moments in this one. So yeah, definitely one of my favourites personally, and number 7. And so at number 6 we have Carry On Spying. Now this is the one that I really, really like. You could say I love this film at times, and this is obviously one that, it's really the first proper spoof of James Bond, and I think for that it has to be commended, and I think as well just the way it does this, and the way it kind of explores different Bond films, and just the spy genre, I think it's just so well done, and just very small cast really in this one. For the regulars, it's more of a small team here, and it's more focused on just a group of quite a few characters, just, and it's not really an ensemble piece in a typical Karen sense, but I think that's one of the strengths of this film, and it's very focused, very well written, and I think just the actual acting in this film is great. Obviously Kenneth Williams and Charles Hawtrey especially, just legendary in this film, and I think seeing a spoof of James Bond and the way it's handled, very subtle at times, and just definitely. It's quite bold in places as well. I think it's just so funny throughout, and just definitely my favourite personal James Bond spoof that I've seen. And I think in a general sense, it's the first Carry On film that really truly feels like the proper Carry On franchise, and from here on out, I think really all of the films until Carry On England really, for me. That was, the kind of pinnacle of the Carry On, experience, and I think that the franchise from here, really, they were following, in the kind of the footsteps of this one, and I think just the formula to the Carry On films, which really set up here, or at least perfected really with this one, and you could say Carry On Cleo is the one that really done that. I think it was Carry On Cleo in this film. These were the ones where it kind of really truly became, Carry On as we know it, and I think just. This film, consistently from start to finish is so funny, so investing, and just very escapist, and as well specifically focusing on the Bond films. I think this genre, the spy genre, it's just definitely for me personally, and one of my absolute favourite Carry On films. And so now we get into the top 5, and all of these films, the top 5 here, I absolutely love, and I do love Carry On Spying as well. But number 5 onwards for me, it's just a step up for me, and just. This is, the pinnacle of Carry On, for me personally, and I think, top, 5 and 4, I think could have been rearranged and swapped, you could say at times, but I've definitely got a solid ranking now. But the top 3 for me is definitely very specific and very precise. And so at number 5 we have Carry On Cleo. Now this one is legendary at times, and I think this is just. The way this film looks, it's definitely one of the best looking Carry On films. We've got Amanda Barry as well as Cleopatra, and she is just so great in this film. And this is a very bold film again. This is more of a sexual Carry On film compared to the previous ones, and it's just legendary moments in this. Probably the best Kenneth Connor role in this one. I think the way the film starts out, setting up the characters, and very a lot of twists and turns as we go throughout the film, and stuff that is very precise and very specific, but it's very loose as well, and it's nice to just have more of a kind of general, just Carry On film at times with the sequences and the way the comedy works, but it is specifically focusing on obviously Cleopatra and this time period, and it's very well written in that sense, but it's not kind of getting too bogged down in just getting the specifics right and all this kind of stuff and what they kind of trying to parody. I think it is still a very kind of just relaxed Carry On film, and I think it's a great balance in that sense, and I love the sets to this, obviously reused from the actual Cleopatra film in '63, and that's really cool. Of course, a lot of the sets here were kind of taken from that, and just the way the film looks, the music to this, it's a grand, majestic film, and at the same time, it's the usual Carry On, classic stuff. A lot of the cast here are at their best, and just consistently this film is just so funny, investing, magical, and just so cinematic as well. And as I say, one of the best films in the Carry On series. And Kenneth Connor, is for me at his best. Sid James, is legendary here. Kenneth Williams, Charles Audrey, everyone in this film is hilarious, and it's just also an epic film in places as well. So that was at number 5, Carry On Cleo, definitely one of my personal favourites in the series. And at number 4, we have a film that just edged it out, for my personal investment in this film, and the charm and the true ensemble nature of this, and that is of course Carry On Matron. And now this is the one that I think is the best of the 70s Carry On films. Just the ensemble nature to this film, it's just so well done, and I think all of the cast here is just so hilarious. So many different moments that you're just hysterical, and I think obviously Bernard Bresler in this film, and just moments when he's interacting with Kenneth Cope, who very sadly passed away recently, Kenneth Cope, and that's a real shame. He was so good in this film, and just a legendary role for him, and he's really the main character in this film. Obviously, the disguises that happen in this film, the situations it leads to as we go throughout, it's just priceless. And the remarks from Bernard Breslau and on Kenneth Cope at first, it's one of my favourite kind of recurring gags in this one, and just the entire cast. Terry Scott in this one, of course. One of the defining matron roles from Hattie Jakes, and Joan Sims as well. Quite a different role for her, and it's just the entire cast, the location, the narrative. It's quite epic in places, and consistently this film is just absolutely hilarious. Laugh out loud, and the ending to this as well, the way it comes together in the final act is just so nice. This has some of the funniest sequences in the Carry On series, and particularly in the middle portion of the film, and just really so hilarious, and absolutely love this film really from start to finish. So now we get into the top 3. Now these 3 films for me are all of my favourite films list, in general, and I think they're some of the funniest films ever made, and among them, and I think just easily my top 3. These are the ones that I've seen the most, over my life, and I saw actually all 3 of these films when I was a young kid, and just watched these, just over the years consistently, and just loads as a kid, especially my number 1 and number 2 as well. So at number 3 we have for me the best in terms of visuals, in the Carry On films, and the entire franchise. Easily the best production, the best cinematography, and just the way the film looks and feels, the atmosphere too. This one is just something else, and one of my favourite, just in general, horror comedies of all time, and that's of course Carry On Screaming. What can I say? This is just a legendary classic Carry On film, and in general, just as I say, Carry On. Not just Carry On, but horror comedy. This is just one of the best that I've seen, and just the entire look and feel of this film. The writing to this, obviously, a lot of the cast, they're best here, and I think Kenneth Williams is one of his very, very best roles, if not his best. One of my favourite lines, in the entire franchise with "Frying Tonight." That is just so legendary to me, and I saw this so much times as a kid, and just seeing it again and again, and really, I think Peter Butterworth is at his best in this film. Harry H. Corbett, of course, the main lead really of this film. He is legendary, and it's a shame that we didn't get more Harry H. Corbett in the franchise, but we'll take this one because he was just absolutely amazing in this, and truly a legendary film with everyone in the cast just perfect really, and I think Fenella Fielding in this is great. Bernard Bresslaw, very different character as Socket, and the kind of charm to this, the team up of different characters, the narrative, the genre, the way it's kind of portraying this, parodying a lot of the Hammer films, of course, Hammer horror, and I think that's great because I love Hammer films, and it's just something I can really appreciate, and over the years it's the one that I've appreciated more and more actually, and the more Hammer films and different horror films that I've seen, and when I go back to this, it's just really great because the way they've done this, the way it's put together, the way it's written, and the way it's performed as well. And Jim Dale, one of his best roles, and you've got so many different sequences in this that are just absolutely hilarious, and something that I can just sit back and really be so invested in. This one, it's just a feel-good film, so charming, and epic, and really bombastic at times, and just what it's doing with the genre and the way it's parodying this, and specific films as well. The Hammer horror franchise, you could say, is so well done. This is at times a perfect horror comedy, and it's one of my personal favourites of all time. So yes, that was number 3, Carry On Screaming. And so how would I order the top 2? And now this is a kind of my top spot. Is a one that potentially a lot of people would probably not put the top, but for me it's just a personal one that I do think is definitely the best in the series, the most investing, and the funniest for me as well, and the most cinematic in certain ways with the narrative as well. But at number 2 we have one of my absolute favourite comedies as well, and it could not be stressed enough. Even though this is not number 1, I do really, really love this film so much. I've seen this so many times over the years, and as a kid, I saw this just as much as really number 1, on my ranking, and that is of course the legendary Carry On Camping. So this one is just what a film this is. I think just from start to finish, it's just one of the most kind of charming comedies. The way in which they're kind of going to this campsite, and it's just pure escapism really, and it's just that's the thing with these top 3. I think they are really all the most escapist films to me in the franchise, and they are also the best written for me, and performed, and just the entire cast in this film is just so great, and Sid James, Bernard Bresslaw together is priceless. Probably the very, very best Sid James role, and just the locations, the feel-good nature of this, and just the entire film, the way it progresses. I think all of the gags in this one, just so funny, hilarious moments of slapstick, and just the writing and the way that characters, it's much more subtle at times, to the Carry On films, and really just it's one of those Carry On films that is leaps and bounds above most of the series. They just perfected a lot of the formula here, and obviously one of the last films of the 60s, and quite a bit into the series here, and it took it took you know, a lot to kind of live up to this one going forward, and you know, I don't really think any of the Carry On films did, but you know, certainly for me, one of the very best, you know, in the series. Definitely the final act kind of lets it down a little bit, but I think over the years, you know, the more I've watched this film, the final act has kind of grown on me, and it doesn't kind of bother me as much as it did, for example, you know, 5 or 6 years ago. And even though it's the weakest part of the film and not as funny as, you know, it had been until that, you know, I think it does end, you know, so well, and a classic, you know, kind of ending shot to this, and just, you know, I think throughout, you know, the characters, the kind of the adventure feel of this, the escapist feel, you know, I think it's just really speaks to me, and just going out, you know, camping and traveling to the campsite, you know, it's just so funny, and at the same time, you know, this epic kind of feel-good, you know, adventure journey, you know, film. So I do love, you know, as well, the kind of road trip elements to this, and just all of the pairings and the different characters that, you know, throughout this film, the way, you know, that at some point in the film they all kind of interact. You know, I think that's just so well done, and really at times this is, you know, a perfect kind of comedy film. You know, I think definitely got some issues here and there, and you know, in that final act it does let it down, but really overall it's definitely one of my, you know, personal favourite comedies of all time, and just from start to finish, such a funny film, and you know, such a charming, you know, feel-good escapist Carry-On film, a real classic in the series, and you know, one that I do, you know, have seen so many times, and do really have a lot of nostalgia for, and you know, just whenever I see this, it puts me at ease, and just yeah, it definitely uplifts me, and it's one of my absolute favourite, you know, comedy films, really, in many ways. So everyone knows my number one by now, and that is, of course, Carry On Doctor. Now this one, to me, you know, is my favourite, you know, by far, really, at times, and I think overall it's the most investing for me with the characters. Every single character, every arc in this film, I'm so invested in. You know, you've got voiceover at times that works perfectly. You've got, you know, it's the music in this as well. My favourite music in the entire series. The theme to this, it was the one that was used, you know, on the Carry On set, on all of the discs, you know, the main menus. They used the Carry On Doctor theme. It's just so iconic, and you know, I think for me, you know, in terms of the Carry On cast, you know, Kenneth Williams and Jim Dale, you know, my personal favourites overall, and in this one, Jim Dale as Dr. Kilmore, this is his defining role for me, and you know, I think the absolute best of Jim Dale, and for that reason as well, you know, it's just a film I love so much. But you know, the medical theme, you know, setting that they would return to numerous times in the series. You know, I think this is easily for me the best version of that, and just all the characters, the nurses, you know, the doctors, and the patients as well. You know, I think every single character in this, you know, I'm just so invested in, just enjoy in some way so much. Bernard Bresslaw in this film is so funny, and Kenneth Williams it could be his best role, you know, in this film as Dr. Tinkle. Hattie Jakes in this film is really one of her best roles. It could be her very best in this film, and as well, you know, you've got all the cast here, you know, with Sid James, you know, Charles Hawtrey, and just very unique roles in this film. But Frankie Howard is one of the standouts to this. You could say him and Jim Dale, you know, the kind of two protagonists really that we follow throughout this film. One being a patient, one being a doctor, and you know, I think the way this film's set up is, you know, my favourite, you know, in the series, and the way it progresses throughout. You know, it's just consistently, you know, scene after scene, you know, just narrative momentum, you know, energy, charisma from the cast, and also just hilarious moments. The slapstick to this is the best in the series. The physical, element of the comedy has never been bettered from the Carry On franchise, and you know, I think just particularly, you know, in the middle of the film, you know, the kind of rooftop sequence, you know, for me is one of the very best you know, kind of moments in the Carry On franchise, and just I think just how invested I am in this, how much, you know, I laugh at this, and how cinematic it is, you know, in places. You know, this is overall the most, you know, in terms of just investment, you know, the most cinematic, you know, in terms of the way the film is put together, and it's not the best film visually, it's not the best film, you know, in terms of the production to this, you know, I think, but, you know, it goes to Carry On Screaming, but it is the best in terms of pure, you know, investment in the cinema, you know, in the characters, in the narrative, and the way the film is put together, you know, overall consistently, you know, in the flow of it, you know, it's just for me the absolute pinnacle of the franchise, and you know, I cannot, you know, deny this is the one that I just, you know, enjoy the most, you know, could kind of rewatch the most. It's the one I've seen probably more than Carry On Camping as well, and you know, just seen this so many times, countless times as a kid, that I actually know all the audio cues, just moments when characters are saying just, you know, normal dialogue, you know, not some of the kind of big sequences. You know, I know the way the music is used, the cues, the kind of timing of it, and just all the lines in this film, really from all the characters. I know it off by heart in that sense, and I just love this film so much. So nostalgic to me, and easily rewatching it again last year and this year as well, after quite a few years of not seeing it. It's just a reminder of how much I love this film. And as I say, Jim Dale at his best. The writing to this is just the absolute pinnacle of the series, and I think the setting being the medical theme, it's just the absolute greatest of that. And as a Carry-On film, this is the classic Carry-On film for me. And the way it ends and the way it starts, and everything in between, it's just so funny, uplifting, epic at times, and just really, the pinnacle for me of the franchise. For me, just the one that I enjoy and love the most personally. So yes, that's my ranking. That's the Carry-On films ranked. Number one, Karen Doctor, had to be that. It's the one that means the most to me, and it's just for me, it does edge out even Karen Screaming and Karen Camping as my personal favourite, in the series. And truly, all those three films particularly are legendary, but so many Carry-On films that I love. What do you think? Of course, it'd be great to hear in the comments, your thoughts on this, and how would you personally rank the Carry-On films? That would be great to discuss in the comments. And it's just if you can't, leave a full ranking, obviously, because there's so many different films, in the franchise, and I think if you can't do that, you can leave, your top 5, top 10 kind of thing, even just your favourite that you've seen, and it'd be great to discuss regardless of all this, and just to compare the rankings and your favourites as well, and the reasons for your favourites. And as I say, once again, I'll be leaving a link in the description to my playlist, for the Carry-On content that I've done on the channel so far, and all the 30 main Carry-On films I have reviewed. So if you want specific thoughts on these, check that out, and it'd be great to kind of discuss individually these films. See you in the comments, and as well as today discuss the ranking, and really get into this, and have a great time, celebrating, for me, one of my favourite franchises, really, and certainly in terms of comedy franchises, it could be my favourite, and it's just all of these films really at some point I enjoy, other than the bottom ones, and I think I get so much from this, and to go through all of the series, it's just really amazing. And of course, more Carry-On content to come on the channel, and it doesn't stop now. We have the Carry-On specials to discuss and review them, and rank them as well at some point, and also the Carry-On series, and just different Carry-On lists and top 10s and all this kind of stuff, and content I want to do on the channel. That will be really something I look forward to, and over time, of course, and it doesn't stop now. And this is not the final Carry-On video in that sense. It has been great to go through these films, the last year or so, and do this ranking, of course. But there's more to come on the channel, and I really cannot wait for that. And today to discuss this ranking and all things Carry-On in the comments. So yes, as always, take care, and thanks for watching.